At 6, the race to become the next Prime Minister narrows, but Rishi Sunak is still in the lead. The former Chancellor tops the latest round of MPs' votes, with Penny Mordaunt, the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, just behind him. But Suella Braverman has been knocked out. Also on the programme, the NHS crisis deepens. 51 minutes, that's the average time it took an ambulance in England to get to emergencies like heart attacks or strokes last month.
I've been at this hospital for 16 years and I've never seen it as busy as it is now.
Another rail strike is confirmed. This time train drivers, 5,500, will walk out on Saturday, the 30th of July, mostly affecting services across England. More than 22 civilians are killed in central Ukraine as a cruise missile hits a residential area, injuring many more. And paying the price for a perfect smile, dentists warn of the dangers and complications of heading abroad for cheaper treatment.
And coming up on the BBC News Channel, on the eve of the World Athletics Championships, we speak to Britain's new team captain, Nathan Neal Mitchell-Blake.
Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. Rishi Sunak and Penny Mordaunt are still in the lead in the race to become the next Prime Minister after another candidate was eliminated from the contest this afternoon. The Attorney General for England and Wales, Suella Braverman, finished last in today's vote among Conservative MPs and has therefore been knocked out. The former Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, was still ahead by some margin, securing 101 votes. Penny Mordaunt is hot on his heels, also making gains on yesterday's vote, with 83 MPs backing her today. And the Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, is still in third place with 64 votes. Kemi Badenoch and Tom Tugendhat remain in contention. The next round of voting is on Monday. With more, here's our political editor, Chris Mason.
The name of the game for the candidates right now: lure as many MPs as possible to take a seat in your team. Before today's voting, it was the last of the big campaign launch events.
Times are going to be tough, but I know that I can get us on an upward trajectory by 2024. We can get there by delivering our promises, ensuring spades are in the ground, people are in jobs, and focusing on delivery, delivery and delivery.
How can you be the credible agent of change, given that you have sat around Boris Johnson's cabinet table throughout his time as Prime Minister? And how worried are you that your campaign is being trampled by the March of Mordaunt? There was no direct answer about her rival, and this on being a senior minister under Mr Johnson.
I was critical within Cabinet of the proposed national insurance rise. I was a cabinet minister who spoke out against it at the time. But I'm a loyalist. I believe in collective responsibility. But now the Prime Minister has stood down. I think it's right that I'm honest about my views on the economy.
You're a veteran of going through a leadership race yourself. Is Liz Truss doing enough? She's not got off to a great start, has she?
Well, I was second to last when I came, when I started running, and I ended up winning. So all I can say to you is, it ain't over.
By lunchtime, the focus switched to Parliament and more voting. So from a campaign launch this morning to a polling station open just up the stairs there, Conservative MPs voting on day 2 of this contest. One of the candidates there, Suella Braverman. At 3 o'clock came the result, and bad news for the Attorney General for England and Wales.
Suella Braverman is eliminated from the contest, and the others are able to go forward to a further ballot on Monday.
I don't feel disappointed or that something's gone wrong, actually. It is what it is, and I'm very glad that I had to go and put my policy platform forward.
Once again, the former Chancellor Rishi Sunak got the most votes. Penny Mordaunt, seen here at her campaign launch yesterday, came second, ahead of Liz Truss. Kemi Badenoch was fourth, and Tom Tugendhat, speaking here this morning, was fifth.
Where will this go? I don't know, I can't tell you. But I offered to serve, and that's what I'll do. And it's up to others to decide whether or not they wish to have me. That's, I'm afraid, how democracy works. But I don't quit.
And so 6 have become 5 as the race to move in here continues. So this daily dose of democracy has delivered its second helping, with the prize reaching the weekend and the TV debates, a chance to shine or implode. Little to lose for the outsiders, loads to lose for the front runners. The next round of voting coming up on Monday, but right now, Monday seems a long way off.
It certainly does. Chris Mason, our political editor, thank you. Pressure on NHS emergency services is getting worse, with patients in England waiting longer for ambulances, many staff off sick and record numbers of people going to A&E. The Royal College of Nursing says the situation is bleak. Our health editor Hugh Pym has been looking at the latest figures, and people are having to wait longer and longer for ambulances, even when it's an emergency.
Yes, Sophie, there's now intense strain on the whole health and social care system, and that's become even clearer with the latest data for England. It took an average of 51 minutes for ambulances to respond to a Category 2 emergency, such as a heart attack or stroke, in June. That's a big increase from May and significantly above the 18-minute target set for the NHS. In A&E, 28% of patients were not assessed within 4 hours, slightly more than in Scotland but fewer than in Wales and Northern Ireland based on their latest figures. And more than 22,000 patients had to wait over 12 hours in A&E from a decision to admit to actually being given a bed. NHS England said it was the busiest ever June for emergency departments and ambulance call-outs. A&E at a Surrey hospital this morning.
Hello, how are you?
The challenge, as usual, is finding space for new patients and transferring those who need it to the wards.
We are often coming in the morning with 25 to 35 patients waiting for a bed.
They say there are no longer seasonal differences.
There would be a winter and a summer in hospitals, and that's something that we haven't seen for many years. COVID and the heat wave just make it even worse. I've been at this hospital for 16 years and I've never seen it as busy as it is now.
Ambulance services across England are on the highest state of alert and under extreme pressure, with COVID staff absences a factor.
We are not performing anywhere near where we should be. And I know from my own experience that lives are being put at risk and have been all the way through this period of time.
And how I could have had a fall as bad as it was, I really don't know. There I was, in torture.
Angela had a serious leg fracture after a fall downstairs at night. Her husband Jamie spent hours repeatedly calling 999.
The frustration of not being told when an ambulance was going to come, that's what got me. Every hour ringing, and they would not tell us when. And no ambulance ever did turn up.
The next morning, a local doctor took Angela to hospital. The South Western Ambulance Service apologised and said it was taking too long to get to patients because of delays at hospitals. So is there anything England's new Patient Safety Commissioner can do about problems across the system?
If concerns are raised to my office or to me directly, then I would ensure that they go to the right part of the system and that people get the response that they need. I absolutely can see that there are huge problems at the moment. We are still in unprecedented times.
Hospitals are close to full. It's hard to discharge medically fit patients because of social care problems. A new survey reveals more patients putting off booking GP appointments because it's too difficult. The new realities on the front line. Hugh Pym, BBC News.
5,500 train drivers in England are to go on strike on Saturday, the 30th of July, over pay and conditions. The industrial action by the ASLEF union will affect 8 rail companies, including Great Western, LNER and Southeastern. That's on top of the strike by rail workers announced yesterday for Thursday, the 27th of July. Well, our business correspondent Caroline Davis is with me now. And what more can you tell us about this latest strike?
So, Sophie, we knew that this strike was likely to come. We just didn't know the date, and now we do. But just to run through all of the dates that are coming up at the end of this month. On the 27th of July, we've got the RMT strike. Now, that will be something that will affect the entire country in a very similar way to the way the walkout happened at the end of June, the end of last month. That impact is probably going to roll on into the next day a little bit, at least into the early morning. Now, a few days later, on the 30th of July, is when we will see this walkout by ASLEF train drivers. Now, that'll be across 8 different train operators: London Overground, Chiltern Railways, Greater Anglia, Great Western, Hull Trains, LNER, South Eastern and West Midlands trains. So not the entire country, but still rather large swathes of it, and also going on during the Commonwealth Games. Now, this is not the only area of transport that's had some difficulties today. Of course, earlier in the week, we heard that Heathrow Airport was capping the number of passengers that can depart from it each day to 100,000. That would mean that flights need to be cut. But earlier we heard from the airline Emirates, who have said that they are not going to go ahead with the cuts that Heathrow have asked them to do. Heathrow have said that this is a matter of safety and urge people to go ahead and cut those flights. But as you can see, it's already becoming quite a fractious summer for transport.
Caroline Davis, thank you. Well, as more travel disruption looms, we are going to be tracking the experiences of hundreds of holidaymakers. If you want to be one of our travel watchers and tell us your story, do go to bbc.co.uk/travel watchers for more information and how you can help. The Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has formally resigned after days of huge anti-government protests. Demonstrators are celebrating on the streets of Colombo, defying a curfew in place. Mr. Rajapaksa fled to Singapore on Wednesday as protesters took over government buildings. The governor of Sri Lanka's central bank says the country now needs a stable government as soon as possible if it's to stand any chance of tackling its economic crisis. From Colombo, Rajini Vardhanathan reports.
Under curfew, streets once packed with protesters, now patrolled by the military. Outside the Prime Minister's office, soldiers back on guard, authorised to use force to maintain order. A day ago, it was different. Security forces were overrun by protesters who stormed the gates and entered. One of a number of government buildings taken over by the masses.
The streets outside the presidential palace are now virtually deserted. It's a contrast from a few days ago when this place had been occupied by protesters. They've now handed it back to the authorities, and while there is a sense of calm here right now, this island's problems are far from over.
Tempers are running high as the basics are in short supply. Only a few weeks of fuel now left in the country. In an exclusive interview, the governor of Sri Lanka's central bank told me that without a stable government, the suffering will continue.
We don't see a way forward and how to provide sufficient foreign exchange to finance essential petroleum for this country. If that doesn't happen, then it will be like whole country would be closed down, no one would be able to do any activity.
The pace of the protests has slowed, the goal achieved. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has now resigned. I met Nuzli as he stormed the Prime Minister's house yesterday. He wants an interim government with new faces to be installed.
We will give the interim government 6 months to maximum of 1 year to settle all this and ease the problems as much as possible. After that, election should happen and people can select who they want to rule the next country next.
Tonight, they're celebrating the exit of the man who last ruled the country. The end of a chapter in a protest movement where people power won. Rajini Vaidyanathan, BBC News, Colombo.
The time is very nearly 6:15. Our top story this evening. 5 candidates remain in the Conservative Party leadership race after Suella Braverman is knocked out.
Here at St Andrews, it's a time of change at the home of golf. Tiger Woods, he's struggling at the Open.
Coming up in Sports Day on the BBC News Channel, Northern Ireland's Euros journey is nearly over. We look ahead to their final group game against top-of-the-table England.
38.7 degrees Celsius, that's the hottest temperature ever recorded in the UK, and that was in Cambridge back in 2019. But that record could be broken next week amid warnings of extreme temperatures, particularly across southern, eastern and central England. And not surprisingly, given this heatwave and lack of rainfall in recent months, there are now warnings that water levels in some reservoirs are at their lowest levels for decades, as Danny Savage now reports from Yorkshire.
Water companies are starting to worry. Across a large part of the UK, it's been dry for months and reservoir levels are falling. This is one of several reservoirs which supplies drinking water to Leeds. Yorkshire Water say back in March they were nearly full. You can see the line on the wall up there as to where the water got to. It's now right down here. They are now asking customers to use water more wisely. In other words, use less or face mandatory restrictions.
Restrictions is one of the tools that we have within our drought management plan. As we head into very high temperatures, we'll be doing very targeted communications. They adapt their behaviour and that makes a difference. But of course we can't rule out restrictions later in the year.
Yorkshire Water isn't alone. Customers in other regions are also being asked to take shorter showers and let the lawn turn brown. With potentially record temperatures forecast for next week and no recent rain, an increase in wildfires is expected. This is the Salisbury Plain area today.
How bad is it this year?
Yeah, it's really bad. We've had significant periods of dry weather.
Conditions are some of the worst this fire officer has seen.
We're seeing record numbers of fires in the uplands and in our rural landscapes. We've already surpassed our national totals and we're only just hitting our summer months now. So it's a really concerning time for us as a fire service.
The dry conditions could soon lead to hosepipe bans and other restrictions. More fires are expected. Next week's high temperatures won't help. Danny Savage, BBC News, West Yorkshire.
Russian missiles have struck civilian buildings in central Ukraine, killing at least 23 people, including 3 children, and injuring as many as 50, according to Ukrainian officials. The attack took place in the city of Vinnytsia, far from the front line in the east of the country, where Russian and Ukrainian forces are fighting. Sarah Rainsford is in Vinnytsia, and you may find some details in her report. Distressing.
A sunny morning suddenly turned pitch black. A man filmed this right after the Russian missiles hit Vinnytsia. It is the very heart of this city. They killed workers, women, children. There was an air raid siren, but this is central Ukraine, far from the fighting, so people ignored it. But the blast was huge. A giant department store and an office block were destroyed. But it seems the Russians' target was opposite. This place is called Officers' House, but it's a concert hall. We saw no sign of any military here.
It was scary. People came running this way, covered in shrapnel injuries. So I ran in the other direction, because it was frightening.
This is right in the heart of Vinnytsia, and now this whole square is a disaster scene. There are dozens of rescuers here working through the debris, the wreckage of this missile strike. This was a building of offices, there were shops at the bottom, and they're all completely destroyed. There's a social club just next door, a concert venue, again, a civilian building, and it is also gutted. There's a huge hole blasted through the building. There have been fire workers there dousing the flames even hours after this strike. Russia, of course, always says it fires precision missiles and it's hitting military targets. But this was shops. These were people, civilians, just out walking in the park in the square here. It's another reminder that this war is costing lives every single day, civilians who are being killed a long way from any front lines.
Sarah Rainsford there. Well, thousands of civilians have been killed and millions of Ukrainians have fled their homes since Russia invaded Ukraine. But the devastating consequences of the war have extended to Russian families too. The BBC's Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg, has spoken to the mother of one Russian soldier who went missing in Ukraine.
Russia's invasion has brought untold pain to Ukraine. But if you travel across Russia, you'll discover that here too there are families that are suffering the consequences. This mother has asked us to hide her identity. Valia, not her real name, fears she may get into trouble for speaking out. But she wants to tell us about her son, a Russian soldier who was fighting in Ukraine. Valia last heard from him more than 4.5 months ago.
I don't believe the government anymore. I wrote to his unit. I wrote to the military district office. I wrote to the defence ministry. And then I wrote to them all again. No one has given me the basic information where, when and how my son disappeared.
In official letters, Valia was told that her son had been taking part in the special military operation and that he's missing.
On TV, they say that everything's fine, we're winning. But our lads are being killed. If our country had been attacked like this, we would also be defending ourselves like they are. We'd defend ourselves and we'd be angry too. I realise now that Ukrainian mothers are the same as us. Their sons are being killed. They're searching for their children. I don't know what this was all for. You'd have to ask the government.
Ask President Putin, and he'll tell you he ordered troops into Ukraine to defend the motherland. He wants Russians to rally around the flag. But Valia is in touch with soldiers' mothers across Russia, and she says that many of the mothers blame the Kremlin for what is happening.
They hate the government, they hate Putin, they all want this war to end. If the mothers of all the soldiers who are fighting there and the ones who've lost sons, if they all rose up, can you imagine how big that army would be? And they will. Their nerves will snap. Stop. Stop all this. Stop it and protect our children.
Since she spoke to us, Valia has received confirmation that her son is dead. One more Russian soldier who won't be coming home. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Russia.
Now a look at some other stories making the news today. The actor Kevin Spacey has pleaded not guilty to sexual assault charges dating back 17 years. The 5 allegations relate to 3 men who are now in their 30s and 40s. The 62-year-old was granted unconditional bail after appearing at the Old Bailey, where he's due to stand trial in June next year. The Environment Agency says that water companies should face jail sentences and tougher fines for the worst cases of pollution. An annual report has found there were 62 serious pollution incidents in 2021, the highest total in 8 years. 2 companies, Southern and Southwest Water, were given the bottom performance rating in the agency's 4-star system. The boss of the energy giant Shell has warned that rationing of energy in Europe cannot be ruled out because of worries over the supply of gas from Russia. He said a really tough winter in Europe was ahead, with energy prices set to see significant rises. Energy prices jumped earlier this year after Russia invaded Ukraine. Now, the quest for the perfect smile is leading to serious complications for growing numbers of people who are travelling abroad to get cosmetic work done on their teeth. BBC News has learned that hundreds of British dentists are dealing with people who had cut-price crowns put on overseas in procedures that have significant risks. Divya Talwar has the story.
This is one of the latest beauty trends that's taken off on social media. It's all about guessing the perfect smile by filing down most of your natural teeth and gluing a cap or crown on top. It's been dubbed Turkey Teeth because it's one of the most popular destinations people are travelling to for this look. Tilly is 22 and says she hated her old teeth.
Ever since a young age, I was bullied for my teeth. So I grew a complex against them. I didn't like them. I was called things like Bugs Bunny.
So earlier this year, Tilly travelled to Turkey for 16 new crowns.
I'm smiling a lot more. I'm laughing, I'm not hiding my mouth, which I did constantly.
Our investigation has found that this risky and invasive treatment is often planned entirely over social media, and many dentists in the UK won't touch turkey teeth.
If we have a patient who is not our patient, say they've had work done in Turkey, it is much easier for us to simply not take that patient. If I did 20 crowns on a 21-year-old for the purposes of improving the colour, I would have my licence revoked.
Getting this look can come with major risks like painful infections and tooth extractions. Turkey teeth don't last forever. Lisa says she had no idea they'd need replacing when she had her teeth done over a decade ago. She had to go back last year to have 26 new crowns.
I thought once they put the teeth into your mouth, that was it. They never said, you know, that your teeth can die, that you can get up. They never said anything.
Lisa's had major complications, including infections and chronic pain.
And do you know the way I've just been laying in bed crying?
If she'd known about these risks, she'd never would have got the treatment done. While many people will continue travelling abroad for that Instagram-worthy smile, the advice is to do your research, because once you've got these teeth, there's no going back. Divya Tawa, BBC News.
Well, there is much more on that in the BBC documentary, and it is called Turkey Teeth, Bargain Smile or Big Mistake. You can see it on BBC iPlayer now or on the BBC News channel this Saturday. Now, experts at the National Galleries of Scotland say they're thrilled to have found a previously unknown self-portrait of Vincent van Gogh. It was hidden on the back of another of his paintings, this one dating back to 1885, which is called The Head of a Peasant Woman. And the piece was being x-rayed before an exhibition, and this was found. Covered by layers of glue and cardboard, the Dutch artist often reused canvases to save money, turning them over and then working on the other side. This is the X-ray image that visitors will be able to see at an upcoming exhibition in Edinburgh. But curators say it may be possible to uncover the real thing eventually, though it will be a very delicate process. Extraordinary. Now, the first day of golf at the 150th Open Championship is drawing to an end. The competition has returned to St Andrews, which is regarded as the home of golf, but it's a time of deep division within the sport, with the new Saudi-backed Live Golf Series recruiting many leading players. Joe Wilson is there for us now. Joe.
290,000 spectators are expected over the 4 days of the 150th Open. At St Andrews, more than anywhere, they follow tradition. On the tee from Listen to the reaction when England's Ian Poulter came to the first tee. He's one of several players here who are also part of the Saudi-financed Live Golf Series, which is, according to the Open organisers, undermining the sport. Are you aware of those comments, Ian?
Purposely haven't looked at all. So I don't want to know. You can tell me, I'm not going to listen.
Rory McIlroy has stood firmly against the new Live Golf. He navigated this old course expertly in his first round to finish 6 under par. Tiger Woods has prioritised playing here again over everything else. But when the dust cleared on the first, he watched his ball bounce into the burn. Water, in other words. Many sympathised.
Well, you know where Tiger Woods is on the course, even when you can't see him, because you can't see him. Look, he's surrounded by a crowd. Everyone's still trying to catch a glimpse of him.
What they saw was the former champion struggling through the opening holes of his round.
No, it's just gone by.
Suddenly, it seemed like a youngster's game. Earlier, another American, Cameron Young, aged 25, walked off the 18th 8 under par. Get your round done and let the others try to catch you. It's what Tiger would do. A strong mention for Barclay Brown of Sheffield, who's playing here as an amateur and finished his first round at 4 under par. Tiger Woods, after 10 holes, Sophie, was 4 over par. Now he has time, not much, but still some.
Joe Wilson, thank you. Let's have a look at the weather. Sarah Keith Lucas is here, and those temperatures are just going to get very hot next week.
They are indeed, yes, some intense heat on the way, Sophie. Not everybody a fan, of course, of temperatures quite this high, but out there today, actually, we've had a little bit of a lull, a slightly cooler, fresher feeling day. Still lots of sunshine. This was the picture off the coast of East Yorkshire. But those exceptionally high temperatures are on the way. Where are they coming from? It's already been really, really hot across Portugal and Spain. Temperatures there in the mid-40s. It's not going to get quite that hot here, but those temperatures well above average are drifting across France and widely across the UK, particularly by the time we get to Sunday and into Tuesday. So for that period, the Met Office have issued an amber extreme heat warning that covers much of England and Wales, but it's going to be hot right across the board. Particularly in that warning area, we could see impacts such as widespread health problems and transport disruption. So plan ahead. By Monday and Tuesday, you may have to change your daily routine due to the heat. Now for the here and now, for the rest of this evening and tonight, we've got a bit of rain for Northern Ireland and Scotland, clear further south, but temperatures somewhere between about 10 to 14 degrees, so relatively comfortable for sleeping at this stage. Now through the day tomorrow, we have got a bit of rain that's clearing out of Scotland, pressing through parts of northern England, North Wales, into the Midlands as well, dry towards the south of that. Temperatures tomorrow, we're looking at the mid, possibly the high 20s down towards the southeast, but further north, the high teens or low 20s. Now moving through into the weekend then, and we've got a bit of rain in the far northwest of Scotland, but dry with that strong sunshine elsewhere, and temperatures up into the high 20s for many of us on this Saturday. By the time we get to Sunday, the heat becomes more widespread across the UK and temperatures in the mid-30s. The peak, though, of the heat wave is going to be Monday and Tuesday, where we could be seeing temperatures close to 40 degrees. So I think, Sophie, really, we could see quite severe weather over the next few days.
Incredible to see temperatures like that being forecast here. Thank you very much, Sarah. And that is it from the BBC News at 6. Hugh Edwards will be here with all the latest at 10. But now on BBC One, it is time to join our colleagues across the nations and regions for the news where you are. Goodbye.